brain gets activated by the society, because the society tells you that you have to be an engineer, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a pharmacist, you have to do this, you have to do this, so that you can make a living, and so you can fit into the social structure. So the brain centers get activated by the society, but all the other centers are just sitting there. And we don't want them to be activated either. Because, for example, Anahat Chakra, we talk about, is the heart center, where the love, emotions, and all these things. But then love and emotions are counterproductive. When in the real world, emotions have no value. In the world of business, if you live with emotions, that won't help. If your heart centers get activated, you will have love for everyone. And that's not acceptable for your spouse. Spouse says, how can you love, how can you love everyone? But if your Anahat Chakra gets activated, that's what's going to happen. You will have love for everyone for no reason. But we neglect when we keep these chakras subdued, because it interferes with the social structure. But we don't even know what heart chakra can do, Anahat Chakra can do for us. So, but by focusing our awareness, when you go within, when you do the meditation, and when you repolarize your attention, your awareness to all these chakras, you will start noticing the difference in your personality, yourself, and people around you also will notice. And until all these chakras are activated, you cannot reach Samadhi, because all these chakras have different functions. So we have to do those things and distribute your energy. Like we know in the double slit experiment, the presence of the observer, the observation itself changes the outcome of the experiment. So the same way, by sending our awareness to the different center, the consciousness will activate those centers. So we should be, there is a big world within us that we can really spend time and realize our full potential, instead of wasting our time on the outside world. So we have a lot of these treasures are hidden within ourselves, and yet outside we're looking for tiniest pleasures, that, oh, give me this, give me that. It's almost like a king begging in the streets, not knowing that he is a king. We all have this thing within us, but we're looking for attention from outside. We don't want to look our ego satisfied. How do I look like today? What do I dress up, and if my shirt is good or not? Whether do I look young like or not? Do I look like Hema Malini or not? Whatever. So all these things, we asking for tiny pieces of bread from people when we have big treasure sitting inside. But instead of paying attention to that, we're going outside and looking for things. So state of mind is very important. That when you think that you know everything, and because what happens in the material world, once we get used to the material world, we acquire the knowledge of the material world. And if we are told that this is all you need to know, then our quest to go within stops. Because our religious leaders tell you that, okay, these are the scriptures, this is what it is, and this is it. But that's like so dry, versus actually experiencing within is totally different. So we are told by the religious leaders that these are the rituals you should do, these are the books you should read, and that's the end of that. But nobody gives the encouragement to go within. And once you go within, you don't even need to do anything else anyway. Yeah. Because
so those are the road maps, not the destination.
Exactly. So the road maps have been considered as destinations. So as if you buy the Randall McNally Atlas.
McNally, yeah.
McNally. Believe it or not, after all these years, my father found some old map sitting in my house. I said, we don't use, we have GPS and all those things, but he found the maps and all that. So it reminded me of those maps that we used to use. But looking at the maps is not reaching the destination. Maps are maps. There is San Francisco here, there is Chicago here, there is Tampa here, whatever. It's not being there. So being there is all that's about. Knowing how to get there, or knowing that something exists, does not mean anything. So we keep on spending our time with this knowledge, and knowledge kind of holds you up and makes you think that this is it, this is all you need to know. And then we die that way. So we need to change the direction of our attention.
There is an irony in the sentence that you need to have a knowledge that you don't need the knowledge.
Exactly.
Ultimately, you get to the point that you leave all the knowledge behind,
Right.
and you become knowledgeless.
That's why.
That is the state you want to get.
The knowledge that you don't know.
Yeah.
That's what that. It was a story on that Delphi about the Socrates. The Socrates was a Greek philosopher, and the Delphi, the goddess of Delphi. I told you about, right? I think Delphi was. We've been to Delphi. It's in Greece, and there was they used to choose a virgin, and in the charge of the making the prophecies, oracles they used to call. So you make the oracles, and what's going to happen. So a lot of kings used to come, and their oracles used to be turn out to be so true, because they would go into the trance, synchronize with the Atma, and then give out the prophecies. So the kings used to come and ask whether I'm going to win the war or not, and look at the same thing going on.
Right.
It's like going into Delhi or Washington, and I'm going to win or not in this election.
Jyotish.
So Jyotish and all that. So Socrates, so Delphi declared that Socrates is the most intelligent person in the world. So people went to Socrates, and Socrates says, no, Delphi is wrong. I'm the most ignorant person in the world. So now the people went back to Delphi, and they told, he said, no, Socrates says he's the most ignorant person. He says he's also right and I'm also right. He says, how is it possible? On one hand, Socrates says, Delphi says he's the most intelligent,
Yeah.
but he says he's the most ignorant. And Delphi says that this is what it is. Socrates says, so where is the compromise? So they went back to Delphi again. He says, so what is the really understanding of the whole thing? And she said that Socrates, I didn't say he's the intelligent guy. I said he's the most knowledgeable because he knows about his ignorance. And the rest of the people don't know about that ignorance. That makes him higher than, but we all are ignorant. So it is true, he's ignorant, but he knows that he's ignorant. So all these religious leaders have really given us the Cadillacs and all these vehicles to go to different destinations, and which destination was already here. They have not said anything new, and they have made everything so complicated that they make the more difficult it is for you to do it, the more enticing it becomes. That means I have to climb this up mountain, and then only I can reach there. And they themselves keep doing those things because that earns more reputation and more ego, so they can do the things that we normally cannot do. So they make you realize all these things, but ultimately they come and tell us, yeah, there is God. It's like Rajneesh gives an example of Sheikh Challi. Sheikh Challi we used to have. So they say that Sheikh Challi is a great thinker. He knows everything. And so one time it happened in the kingdom, some robbery took place, right? So the soldiers kept searching and searching, and a lot of jewelries and everything was stolen. And so king said, no, we have to find out who has this and that. But 2, 3, 4 days, nothing came up. So somebody thought about Sheikh Challi. They said that Sheikh Challi claims that he knows everything, so maybe let's call him. So they went to look for Sheikh Challi. Sheikh Challi was sitting like this, like typical, thinker. You have to think all the time. And they said, Sheikh Challi, did you know that robbery took place? He said, of course, I know everything. Of course, he lives in the town. Somebody must have told him. So they take him, said, but king wants to know that
Who did it?
So can you come and help me? He says, yeah, sure, why not? I know everything. So he goes to the king and he says, you really want me to tell you who did it? He says, yes, that's what we really called you for. So he says, all these people have to leave. I can't, because I don't want to let out the secret in front of everybody. Who knows? One of them could be, this and that. So they close. So they let go. And now you have to close the doors. And then king says, okay, now tell me. He said, I'll tell you in your ears. If I say loud, walls also could have ears, somebody can listen. He says, okay, tell me. You sure you're not going to tell anybody else, right? He said, come on, tell me. Who is the robber? He says, I think some robber has done the robbery. That's all. That was his secret. He knew that there's some robber. So this is what is happening with all these religions that we are spreading around. Oh, they make such a pomp and show and build big temples and rituals and this and that. And ultimately they say, you have to go within. What did I need you for? Why?
All this circle.
All the circle for what? It's like, Rajneesh always give an example that somebody was drunk. At night he comes from the bar and then he can't find his house. So he's going around in circles and finally he lands up in front of his house, but he does not recognize the house. So he tells everybody, please help me, get me to the house. Everybody says, this is your house. No, I don't see it. I don't think this is my house. My mom is waiting for me, this and that and all that. So one guy comes in, he says, okay, come with me. I'll take you to your house. So he puts it in a bullock cart. It's in a village. Takes him around and full circle and brings him back. Oh, thank you so much. So whether you have a bullock cart or you have a Cadillac or Jaguar, doesn't matter. Ultimately, you all have to go within. Then what do I need all these things for anyway? But when it really comes to the true knowledge of how the consciousness works, do we know? We don't. We know the name of the flower, we know the shape of the flower, we know the size of the flowers, all these things, but how the flower comes about, how do you know? A tiny seed holding on to all this huge tree.
Even how is not the answer of what.
Yeah, answer of what? Nothing. What it is, how is it? It's total agyay.
We don't know what it is.
There is gyat, agyat and agyay. This is not knowledge, known, unknown. This is unknowable. And when it is unknowable, it becomes exciting. That's when the quest begins. When you put your, the shastra down, when you put your weapons down, say, okay, I fought in this world, I thought I was smart, I'm putting everything down.
Yeah.
That's when your quest begins. So Rajneesh gives an example of one guy he met. He says that I meditated so much, and then I didn't really find anything. At the end, I got a sign saying that, stop, this is where the world ends. And I turned back, so I said, this is it. So Rajneesh says, I did the same journey. I turned and looked at the other side of the board. He says, this is where Paramatma begins. So when the world ends, that's when the self-realization starts. So self is not what we think we are. We are a lot more than that. So we have to continue our quest for that. We're looking for God in a wrong place. There was an example of a king. He says that one day in the middle of night, somebody was found walking on the roof of the palace. So he called the sentries and he says, find out who is that guy is. What is he doing up here? This and that. So they shouted. He said, what are you doing? And they say, oh, I'm looking for my camel. He says, camel on a rooftop? How could a camel be on a rooftop? And then before they try to catch him, he disappears. And a couple of days later, the guy comes in to the palace and he says, I'm looking for a place to stay here in this guest house. He says, this is not a guest house. This is a palace. The king lives here. He says, oh, can I talk to the owner of the, whatever you call that? He says, yeah, come on. So they take him to the king. He says, I want to rent a room in this guest house. He said, this is not a guest house. This is my house. This is a palace. I live here. He says, no, but a few years back I came. There was somebody else sitting on the throne. He said, well, that was my father. He retired, so I took over. He says, yeah, but that means you are also temporarily. But many years back I had come and it was not your father. Oh, that was my grandfather. So that means people are coming here and then going. Where is the permanent? This is your house. You could take it with you. He said, no, nobody can take the house with them. So we are all thinking that this is our permanent home. It's not. This world is a temporary place. It's a guest house. We are a guest here. Inside is the reality. When we go within, you will realize, you will come across an infinite space, and that space is not you. It's not yours either. It's like leaving your driveway and going into the highway. Highway belongs to everyone. That infinite space you will find belongs to everyone. And that's when your spiritual uplifting will start taking place.
Well, it says it's always changing, but it's not moving.
Right. True.
Yeah,
The change is constant.
change is constant.
Right.
So it's you're not gonna catch it.
Right.
There's nothing to
But
catch.
our problem is we try to catch it. We want to freeze every moment
Yeah.
in time. That okay, this should not change. This should not change, and that's why we suffer. So the emptiness is within us, and we have to start loving that emptiness. Emptiness is the real thing. And emptiness, if we get used to it, then we will not be going crazy, with the material world. But because if our mind, keeps want to fill it up itself with the desirable things, it's never going to fill up. Because the more you want, the more you get from the material world, the more you're going to want. And anytime you have a desire to be something else than what you are, your mind is active. Whether the desire is for money or fame or whatever the thing is you want, you are deviating from your present state to something in the future. You don't have this, but you want something that is a future event. So connection of yourself to the future generates the rat race. The race starts. There is no guarantee you're gonna get what you're gonna wanted or not, but doesn't matter. But you're running anyway, you're trying to gain something, go somewhere. So anytime there is a deviation from the present moment, your mind becomes active, and when the mind becomes active, it's gonna make you go again and again after again and again and more. It's never gonna fill up. So when we give up the race, then we are here. Then we have reached to our destination. The self-realization is extremely important. By giving up the desires, you are reaching your destination. And that's the method of meditation. And the santosh, the sense of satisfaction, the bliss that you get by reaching that place, you realize that it was always there. That you thought you would get after buying Mercedes or Jaguar or whatever you're going to acquire. If you thought that you're going to become happy, that happiness was already here. There were 3 monks in China. They were called laughing monks, because they used to just go and crack jokes and laugh all the time. And he says, why do you laugh? Because they said that once we reach enlightenment, we realize that there is nothing else left to do in this world. We are here to enjoy. And to the point that, they went from villages to villages and made people laugh. He said, just laugh your life out. There is no suffering. There is no miseries. Why are you worried about these things, So to the point that one of the monks died, so the 2 monks brought him and they wanted to cremate him. And to the point that when they started putting on a fire, and he had hidden fireworks within his body. The fireworks went off. He said, even the death can be beautiful.
That's a good idea.
Rajneesh always celebrated every death.
Is that right? Yeah.
In a commune, જ્યારે પણ કોઈ બી expire
Right.
there was
Is that right?
celebration.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So
Good idea.
So we have to realize that our ego is standing because of our identifications, whether it is our material possessions, our relationships, our cars and our behaviors, whatever. All these are material possessions, including to the point of our identification as a male or a female. Now, all the possessions are given to us by the society, our social security number, our house, our car, whatever money or whatever we have is given by the society. But then our sexual identification is given to us by the nature, but it is still given to us. But biologically speaking, we all are males and we all are females. We have both the hormones. So our grip on thinking that we are males or we are females is the another ultimate hurdle that you have to give up to really reach to the point of Samadhi. Because Brahma is unisex. Brahma is not female, and Brahma is not male. Because that identification as a male or a female is another hurdle that you will come across when you go within.
It is it.
It exactly. So it